The Kalos Elite Four and Champion are often considered as some of the most underwhelming bosses in the entire series. Each Elite Four member only uses 4 Pokemon with a predictable type coverage and overlapping weaknesses, making it pretty easy to sweep their team with a single strong type. While Mega Evolution is a major mechanic introduced in Gen 6, the only member of the Kalos Pokemon League to have a Mega Evolution in their team is Champion Diantha, and even then, her Mega Gardevoir is easy to counter as it's not part of a particularly cohesive or threatening team. So my goal here today is to fix the difficulty of the Kalos Pokemon League. I want to bring these bosses up to par with their past counterparts while giving their teams more unique identities. Of course, I'm not just going to give them extremely busted Pokemon and call it a day. No, I'm going to try my best to be fair by making them more challenging, but not impossible. Just like my fixing the gym leader video, I'll be adding in a Mega Evolution for each of the Elite Four members and then tweaking their teams around that. Of course, these guys will have a story mode team as well as a rematch team where the team will be fully fledged out. So with that all said and done, let's jump straight into it. Let's start with Malva. Now, Malva specializes in fire-type Pokemon. She has a Pyroar, Torkoal, Chandelier, and Talonflame. Looking at her team, the odd one here has to be Torkoal. You see, Gen 6 X and Y Torkoal is not the Torkoal we all know and love today. What do I mean by that? Well, for starters, it doesn't even have access to the ability Drought yet. You know, the ability that basically made it so popular it became one of the staples on a Sun team. Not to mention, it's also extremely slow. Any Pokemon with over 20 speed with a super effective special attack can easily walk all over it. What I would do for Malva would be to swap Torkoal out and replace it with a Ninetale. This Ninetale will be different from any other Ninetales in the past because it will have the ability Drought, which is also its hidden ability. Moveset wise, Ninetale will have Flamethrower for the same type of attack bonus, as well as Solar Beam to play in conjunction with the Sun. To round it all out, I'm adding in Hypnosis and Disable to make Ninetale a pretty disruptive Pokemon. With Torkoal out, I would make sure Ninetale is the lead to set up the Sunlight for the team. Next up is Pyroar. I like that it has Wild Charge, meaning that it could take out some unsuspected water type Pokemon. After that is Chandelier. Moveset wise, I like Flamethrower and Shadow Ball, but Confuse Ray and Confide needs to go. I want to swap out those two moves for Energy Ball and Will-O-Wisp. Pretty simple here. Energy Ball is for coverage, while Will-O-Wisp is to burn. Now her Talonflame is next, and it's a good physical attacker for the team. Brave Bird and Flare Blitz are devastating if you get hit by them. Flail can knock you out if Talonflame is low enough, and of course, Quick Attack can be used to clean up. Now, as we move on to her 5th Pokemon, it only makes sense that she gets Mega Houndoom. Mega Houndoom fits that fiery passion, but dark and mischievous side of her character. Now, Mega Houndoom will have Solar Power for the ability with Nasty Plot, Dark Pulse, Overheat, and Solar Beam. With that Solar Power ability, Mega Houndoom would have a massive power boost from the sunlight, but it'll still hit like a truck no matter if the sun is out or not. If it ever gets off a Nasty Plot in the sunlight, well, you might as well call it GG. When it comes to Malva's rematch, I think adding in a physical attacker would round out this team pretty nicely since I did replace the Torkoal. We have Pokemon like Arcanine or Semisear who are decently good physical attackers, but what I'm looking for is actually a heavy hitter. After taking some time to really think about it, I figured a Darmanitan would be a fantastic option. Darmanitan is a pure fire-type Pokemon with a 140 base attack stats, as well as being pretty fast with that 95 base speed. This Darmanitan will have Sheer Force for the ability with Flare Blitz, Hammer Arm, Earthquake, and Stone Edge. This thing would go crazy, and it would only fuel up Malva's firepower. At the end of the day, this is what my version of Malva's final team would look like. Next up, we move on to Drasna, who specializes in Dragon-type Pokemon. Her team consists of Dragalge, Altaria, Dredagon, and Noivern. Now, this team is pretty aggressive. 3 out of 4 for Pokemon has fully decked out movesets filled up with really powerful attacks. Rightly so, because I feel like the Dragon-type should go all out. Now, her Altaria has a pretty strong moveset. However, I would swap out that Cotton Guard for Sky Attack just to make it spicier when it puts things to sleep with Sing. For her Dragalge and Noivern, well, I would keep them the same as they provide really good coverage altogether. Other than that, the one problem I do see on her team is the Dredagon. To be honest, this Dredagon has a terrible moveset. Dragon Tail only has 60 power, which is among one of the weakest dragon type attacks in the entire game. Revenge is best used when it moves second if it doesn't get one-shotted first. Chip Away ignores stat changes, and that's really it. As for Retaliate, well, it works okay to get a revenge kill, but after that, it's kind of a dud. Stats wise, Dredagon is quite strong in the attack department, but it's fairly slow, which means a fast Ice, Fairy, or Dragon type could easily destroy it. So I'm gonna replace it with a Haxorus. Stats-wise, Haxorus is just a better Dredagon with less special defense and 1 point less in HP. Overall, it's just faster and stronger. Now, this Haxorus will have Mold Breaker for the ability with Dragon Dance, Dragon Claw, Poison Jab, and Iron Tail. With this moveset, Haxorus should give the team a bit more coverage to Fairy and Ice-type Pokemon, while just being an overall upgrade from Dredigan. As for the 5th member to her team, well, there's really only one option, and that is Mega Garchomp. Mega Garchomp will have Sand Force for the ability with Outrage, Earthquake, Crunch, and Fire Fang. Now, I know in X or Y you could challenge the Elite 4 members in any order you wish, but I always imagine Drasna to be the strongest out of all of them, considering she's the oldest member with years of experience. So with this team, it should give her more of a final boss vibe. Of course, we can't forget about her rematch team, and on that team, she will get a Dragonite. With Dragonite, she will have a dragon representative from every generation, minus generation 2. Now, before you guys get mad at me for forgetting a pretty awesome dragon-type Pokemon, remember, I still have to talk about Siebold, so don't worry, I will get there. Anyways, Dragonites will have multi-scale for the ability with Hyper Beam, Outrage, Fire Blast, and Safeguard. The Safeguard might look weird for those of you who aren't familiar with Generation 2, but this moveset is actually a callback to Lance's highest level Dragonite, and since Gen 6 already makes a lot of references to older Pokemon games, I thought this would fit in perfectly here. The next Elite 4 member is Wikstrom. He's a knight in shining armor, known to be a descendant from a family of knights. He primarily uses Steel-type Pokemon. He has a Klefki, Probopass, Scizor, and Aegislash. Now, as a knight, I feel that Wikstrom should have a couple of armor and weapon-themed Pokemon, but unfortunately, Aegislash is the only Pokemon that fits that criteria. So, how would I fix this? Well, let's start with Klefki. Klefki kinda makes sense being on the team if you consider that most people would take their keys with them when they leave their homes. Plus, it's not that bad at all. It has coverage for the fighting types with Dazzling Gleam. The only thing I would change about this Klefki would be to swap out Torment for Thunder Wave, as I feel that paralyzing the opponents and cutting their speed in half, combined with the Prankster ability, could make this Pokemon an absolute gremlin. Now, moving on to Probopass and Scizor, unfortunately, these two doesn't really give up that knightly vibe, so I wouldn't mind swapping them out. The two Pokemon I have in mind to take their place is Bisharp and Excavalier. Bisharp is the Sword Blade Pokemon, and Excavalier is the Cavalry Pokemon, both of which are also Steel types. Now, Bisharp will have Defiant for the ability with Iron Head, Night Slash, Sword Dance, and Sucker Punch. As for Excavalier, it'll have Swarm for the ability with Mega Horn, Iron Head, Drill Run, and Aerial Ace. Now, of course, Wikstrom will get his own Mega Evolution, and thematically, I feel like the best Pokemon to be on the team should be a Mega Aggron. Mega Aggron is the Iron Armor Pokemon, and that alone speaks for itself. I know in the anime, Wikstrom has a Mega Scizor, but Mega Aggron just makes so much more sense. Plus, I already gave Viola the Mega Scizor in my Gym Leader video, and Mega Aggron is the only other Steel option that is left over. Anyways, Mega Aggron will have filters for the ability with Heavy Slam, Earthquake, Head Smash, and Body Slam to round out the moveset. As for his rematch, I had a couple good options. For starters, Skarmory, the Armor Bird Pokemon, wouldn't be too bad of an idea. However, Klefki kinda does everything that Skarmory can, but better, minus 1 or 2 moves. Next is Bastiodon, the Shield Pokemon, and again, it wouldn't bring anything new to the table. Instead, since Wikstrom's team has a major weakness to Ground-type Pokemon, I think giving him an Empoleon would be perfect. Empoleon will have Torrent for the ability with Surf, Flash Cannon, Drill Pact, and Aqua Jet. Empoleon would knock out 2 birds with 1 stone, considering that it can use water type attacks to cover for the ground types, as well as being a much needed special attacker for the team. With this addition, Wikstrom will have coverage for fire, fighting, and ground type Pokemon altogether. As we get to Siebold, honestly, his team is actually pretty good all around. I don't really see any reason to switch out any of his team members, nor do I think I can come up with anything better for their movesets. Clawwitzer's entire moveset all synergize extremely well with its ability. Starmie is a solid special attacker with great stabs like Psychic and Surf, as well as utilizing a new fairy type attack. Gyarados has a sweeper build with that Dragon Dance, as well as having great coverage against electric and grass type Pokemon. Finally, Barbarico's moveset also synergizes very well with its ability, and it's quite strong on its own. So, with that said, all I would do is give him the 5th Pokemon, which of course should be a Mega Evolution. Now, there's only 2 water type Mega Mega Evolution in Pokemon X and Y, and it's Mega Gyarados and Mega Blastoise. Since Lysander, the leader of Team Flare, has a Mega Gyarados as his ace, this means that Siebold will be getting the Mega Blastoise instead. This Mega Blastoise will have Mega Launcher for the ability with Aura Sphere, Ice Beam, Hydro Pump, and Flash Cannon. Overall, I will be keeping Siebold quite simple here. And the last thing we gotta talk about is Siebold's rematch team. Of course, I left out a Pokemon during the Drasna's rematch section because I felt like this Pokemon would be a better team member here. So, with no further ado, the Pokemon I'm hinting at is none other than Kingdra. Kingdra will have Swift Swim for the ability with Surf, Blizzard, Dragon Pulse, and Rain Dance. Of course, being a water-type trainer, the rain weather is a must for somebody like Siebold, so I figured Kingdra would be a good Pokemon to set up the rain. Now, I know it's not as great as the Pokemon with the Drizzle ability, but Kingdra just fits the vibe a lot better. Now that the Elite Four are done, we gotta talk about the champion. Diantha, for all intents and purposes, was the worst champion in the mainline Pokemon games. Nowadays, I think that title goes to Gita of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Anyways, let's look at Diantha's team. She got Hawlucha, Tyranitar, Aurorus, Gorgas, Goodra, and Gardevoir. First of all, she's supposed to be the toughest trainer in the game, yet her team shares a lot of weaknesses. 4 of her Pokemon are weak to Ice, 3 of them are weak to Fairy, and another 3 are weak to Steel. Not to mention, Hawlucha, Tyranitar, and Aurorus just felt odd being on the team. At this point in your adventure, you would have fought against a bunch of Hawluchas, and with Tyranitar and Aurorus, well, you already went up against their pre-evolution when you took on Grant. What I would do for Diantha would be to swap out these 3 Pokemon while keeping Gorgas, Goodra, and Gardevoir. Now, let's look at her Gorgas. I'm gonna assume this is the supersized form as that one has the best stats for attacking. Looking at his moveset, the move Trick or Treat takes a turn to set up, plus it's very gimmicky as it turns a target into a ghost type. To play more into that surprise factor, I would replace this move altogether for Explosion. I don't know about you, but Explosion is way better of a surprise than Trick or Treat. As for her Goodra, type coverage wise, it covers for its Ice and Dragon weaknesses while leaving out Fairy. How I would change Goodra would be to take out Focus Blast and replace it with Sludge Wave so that it can cover for all 3 types. Moving on, Gardevoir. It's her Mega Evolution and it's the best Pokemon on her team, so I will leave it untouched. As for the 3 newcomers to her team, I think Florges, Rhyperior, and Charizard would fit in nicely. Now, thematically, Florges fits Diantha's theme pretty well. Diantha is supposed to be a movie star, so it's not a surprise to see a beautiful movie star like her holding a bouquet of flowers. Florges will have Flower Veil for the ability with Moonblast, Misty Terrain, Petal Dance, and Psychic. Next up is Rhyperior. Look, every beauty needs a beast by her side, and Rhyperior will be that heavy hitter that her team is looking for. This Rhyperior will have Solid Rock for the ability with Stone Edge, Hammer Arm, Earthquake, and Poison Jab. Finally, to round out this team, she will get a Charizard. Now, over in my gym leader video, I give Ramos a Mega Venusaur, while in this video, I give Siebold the Mega Blastoise. So, in all fairness, I want Diantha to have the Charizard, even though it won't be a Mega Evolution. I think Charizard is a great addition to her team, as it will provide protection against those pesky Steel type, while being an all-around solid Pokemon in terms of stats. Charizard will have Blades with the ability with Flamethrower, Air Slash, Focus Blast, and Dragon Claw. To end it off, since Diantha doesn't need a rematch team, this will be my version of her final team. So, how did I do, guys? Hopefully, this team should make her more challenging as the region's champion, while making her more unique among all of the boss trainers in Pokemon X and Y. And with that, I think I'll end it off here. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.